Hello and welcome to Further Inside Chor Leoni. My name is Eric Light. I am the artistic director of Chor Leoni, and joining me for this conversation is the conductor of the Vancouver Youth Choir, one of our local choral luminaries, Carrie Tennant. Hello, Carrie.
Hi, Eric. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome, and thank you. It's just we haven't seen each other since pandemic happened, so it's these are always nice times to do stuff, even though I think we're now only just like a mile away from one another where we live. So
I know. Where are you, in your attic?
I'm in my attic. Yes, this is my attic studio. Yes. So this is this is my man loft is what I typically call it. So well, I want to thank you so much for being with us. I want to ask you, just first of all, your work, I think, is particularly known with being with youth choirs, and I just want to start this off by asking, why youth choirs? What is special about them for you, and what do you think is special about them in general? How do they differentiate themselves from any other kind of choir?
I think you gravitate towards working with the type of people you connect with. And either that says that I'm innately immature and youthful, or
we don't make judgments here on this show. So yeah,
that I see something in youth that I love and want to continue to keep in my life and keep in my art making. And yeah, I love the way they're so eager to explore, and egoless, and flexible, adventurous, kind. I mean, you could say that about, I'm sure, any generation, but it's particularly true about this one, I think.
And I have my hunches, but why do you think that is? That youth are all those things?
Well, do you mean youth in general, or this generation of youth?
Youth, and maybe youth in general, or the youth that you find that you're working with.
Well, youth in general, I mean, for obvious reasons, they're still adventurous and exploratory, and they haven't had a chance to calcify and become set in their ways, or to have a preference or a bias that's strong and forces them to be more closed than maybe we are as we get older. Of this generation, I mean, like I literally could go on for a long time about the merits of what I see as the generation of youth that right now is maybe 15 to almost 30. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've grown up in the era of social media, and as a result, they have a lot more challenges than I think that I ever faced, both socially and developmentally. And so they work incredibly hard to overcome those. And so they're constantly reaching out. They're more empathetic. They're more compassionate than I remember being at that age. And I remember my peers being as well. I read an article that said that they're the most likely of any generation, except the one in the 60s, to attend a political rally, to participate in their local and school governments, to be activists. And I see that all the time in the kids that I work with.
And you brought up like how it was back when you were in a young singer. What got you into this? And not just conducting youth choirs, but choral music and singing in general. What was your individual path?
I had an incredible elementary school music teacher, Bev Lund. She's still around. She's retired now, but she sings in a choir with my twin sister, actually. She was also my husband's music teacher. She was just an incredible mentor and inspiration. And I think that every educator and every conductor can trace their path back to somebody like that. I know, Phil, for you, that's probably another Carrie Taylor. And I'm sure you have somebody like that, Eric, right?
Oh, I think everybody does. I think even folks that are, not, I don't mean to belittle it, but just singing in your choir. I think that that path of music making always starts with probably one person and then begins that branching out. Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Jim Hikes was my guy, and yeah, and I could go on and on too about what that experience is. The Vancouver Youth Choir is how old now?
We are just finishing our 7th season.
Yeah, we're just like, wrapping it up, right? Yeah. Sorry, what was that number again? What was it?
7.
7.
It's crazy,
your 7th season. And tell me about the formation of this group. What was your inspiration? Founders have they're a certain sort of breed, and there's usually a lot of factors personally going on, or that which you saw in the landscape around you that the changes that you wanted to affect. What were those for you? Why did you start this group?
Well, I started this group because I was working for an incredible organization, Coastal Sound, about 45 minutes outside of Vancouver in the Tri-Cities. I wasn't the artistic director, but I was the associate artistic director. And actually, the reason I have UIC is because of Diane, because when she passed away, she left me money to start my own organization, which she had, which we had talked about before. And then Dick was the chair of my first board. And that's literally the reason that I have VYC, because there's no way I would have been brave enough to be like, I'm just going to start my own thing and, build my own board, and the finances and all of that just loomed incredibly large to me. And so I just had a great Pete Chamberlain and Sandra and so many amazing people that kind of shepherded me through that in those early years, and they're still there too.
Absolutely. And what I've been a part of starting an organization from zero, and I know a lot of young conductors, especially young conductors that are working on starting their own ensembles, or that's their dream. What would the person that was maybe 10 years ago, what would Carrie Tennant now tell the Carrie Tennant from 10 years ago about the biggest surprises about beginning an organization in this way?
We had an incredibly smooth ride, and we didn't have a lot of surprises, but my advice to anybody, and to me back then, would be gather the right people around you. Gather people that have done this before, that love you and that you love, and that are capable and strong and caring. That's what I was lucky to have. So
it's so interesting. I've had a number of folks on the show right now, people that run professional choirs, and now you with a youth choir, and people that have volunteer choirs, university choirs. And that, what you just said, I think every guest has said basically that same refrain over and over again about gathering people around us. And I know that I feel so lucky that the people that I get to gather around me in my life are choir people. They tend to be pretty awesome. And I'm so glad, knowing some of those names of the folks that you've listed off there, just how wonderful they are, and all the good that they've done here in this community, and what they're doing for you is just fantastic. I want to move on a little bit more to some of the artistic things. What do you see, especially how is your choir structured? You're a once a week choir? Is that the general gist of it? Yeah. And you have various ranges of ages in different choirs, but what do you see as maybe the pull between creating a choir and creating singers versus creating musicians and teaching the musicianship time? We only have so much time, especially as once a week sorts of people. but you're getting a lot of formative musicians. How do you balance those maybe two sometimes opposite vectors, or time sucks for us as we're trying to do what we're trying to do?
You mean as you're trying to prepare for a show, carving out time
while
to still
creating
build?
a future musician and singer? Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, do you want to know about the structure of how we do that?
Yeah, or just your philosophy. Yeah, or it could be a nuts and bolts, or yeah.
I mean, my philosophy is that it's my responsibility to teach them what real artistry feels like as a performer and as a participant in rehearsals, what it feels like to be a real artist, but also how to be a capable and independent artist. So those musicianship is really important to our program. And so the way it's structured is each choir has their rehearsal time. This is at our younger levels. Each choir has a rehearsal time. It might be 2 hours, it might be 90 minutes. And then they have a half hour of music literacy divided into 4 different levels, depending on their experience. And that's at the end of their rehearsal. And then they go home. Right.
Yeah. And I think I don't know the answer to this question. That's why I'm asking it. What is the once a week situation for those folks? Are you finding that sufficient? What's happening in the schools, for people all over Canada, throughout Canada or North America, every community is going to be different. Are you finding that sufficient to get those singers and those future musicians to that place?
Well, I'd love to have my oldest group, the Vancouver Youth Choir itself. I'd love to have them 2 times a week, but
life.
I mean, and then there are youth choirs in Canada that meet twice a week, and lots in the States, I'm sure. But I look at my kids and what they bear and what they carry, and I know that I would lose some who matter a lot to me if I moved to twice a week. So that's not an option at this point.
Right. And it's hard to decide that you're going to be like competitive soccer and you're going to suck up every night of these kids' lives and all the rest of it. Yeah. I don't know. Sports seems to be able to do that at its highest levels. And it always seems interesting to me that we as choir people, we tend not to go down that road. And I don't know what's the right answer or the wrong answer in any of that.
Do you feel like, sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah.
I was going to say, do you wish you could do twice a week with Chor Leoni?
I wish I could do every single day, and especially right now, I wish I could do every single day. I mean, the only currency I feel that happens in art is time. It's not money. Time is the only currency that matters, and every project gets decided on how much time it is, and it'll only be as good as it can be with how much time that you have, and your personal satisfaction, and all the rest of it. So yes, so as much time as we can get for things. Programming. Your programming, I think, is really innovative and diverse. And I always feel that choirs that have a particular voice gain that voice from the programming. Your programming for youth. What is your personal programming ideals or philosophy, or what do you think is maybe special for programming for youth choirs, maybe versus some other choir that you could have in your life?
I don't think there's a difference between programming for youth choirs and any other amateur choir, but I think there's a difference between that and maybe programming for professional choir, because all of us that work at the community level have a responsibility to educate and create art. That's 2 parallel, that's 2 things side by side. So when I program, I do think about the educational aspects. I'm balancing genres and eras and tessituras and everything that everybody does. It's nothing different, but I really spend a lot of time programming. Like, I spent a lot of time picking music. It's something I love doing. It's something I love finding pieces that I can commission arrangements of. I love and I have a background in indie rock. I played in a band for a long time with my husband. And so I don't maybe have, and I don't mean this to sound as a judgment on the choral community at all, but I don't have the same kind of silos or disdain for certain genres that maybe some conductors have. And I'm eager to embrace the art and the artistry in pop music, in rock music, in music from around the world, and not necessarily when you're talking about music from around the world. Sorry, I'm rambling now, but music from around. He nods. Yes, you are. I think it's something to note that when we do music from around the world, I'm trying to take that music from where it is at, as opposed to stuff it into my choral box, where I think it would really make a difference in the choral world if it just had a few adjustments, or I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah.
One of the things that I really resonates with me is the idea of the pedagogical programming. That's definitely an idea that I believe in. That the subject matter of what we're teaching for amateur choirs is the repertoire itself. And so if I want to build certain skills or whatever, I need to either move myself with the repertoire that direction, or find pieces that highlight that. You're dealing with a lot of voice building as well, with the especially working with younger voices. When you're looking at repertoire, what are the things that are you looking at? Let's say for your top group, what are the things that you might shy away from with younger voices, and what is appealing to you in the way that the composers or arrangers are writing? Does that question make sense to you?
Kind of, yeah. So, I mean, I have such a wide range of ages. So I'll just speak to my oldest group.
Yeah.
I'll answer it. Yeah. So I feel like it's my responsibility as a programmer, and this is to the audience and to my singers. And I don't know why I thought of this thought myself, or if Diane taught it to me, or Morna Edmondson from Electra, or what, but this has always been kind of a core for me. It's my responsibility to both affirm and challenge. So nobody...
What does that mean to you? Yeah.
I want nobody to walk out of my concert and feel stupid, alienated, like they didn't understand. And I want everybody to walk out of my concert or rehearsal feeling like they were pushed in some way. And I feel like if one is missing, which is the first one is the one that's often missing, I think, from choral programming, to take the time to give your audience something that makes them feel valuable and smart. And I don't mean that in a condescending way at all. Like yeah. So, and that's the same thing I do.
Yeah.
And brings them joy, or makes them, I mean, that's something I've learned from lots of mentors, is how valuable laughter is in a concert hall, as well as all the tears we love to create with the beautiful music we make.
And I think choir directors might focus on those a little bit more than other art forms, it seems.
Yeah.
It seems like, as I go around social media, that seems to be what people are talking about, especially these days. As far as your future dreams, what do you hope for yourself, for this choir moving into the future, when that arises, when the future comes?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not in a good place to talk about my future dreams right now. I just feel like I'm spiraling, and I don't know how you feel, but I feel really worried and panicked, and that I need to just take stock. And I feel like I need to go away. I'm sure lots of conductors feel like this. And by the way, if anybody watches this 20 years from now, we're in the middle of a pandemic. This is what I'm talking about. We're in the middle of a pandemic. I feel like I need to go away and be by myself for 3 days and think about what are we going to do? How can I continue to serve my community? Because this is a tough time.
Agreed. And I think I don't know of any too many generations of choral directors that have had to deal with this. It might not have been since the last World War that we were dealing with this level of uncertainty and change. And I find it quite interesting on how we respond, and I'm sure that when we can and when we do, I'm going to be very excited to see what you have to say about it with your beautiful singers and your artistry. I want to thank you so much for being with us on this show, and I just wish you the most peace possible.
Thanks so much.